To see you all. We're live again. And today we're here to talk about work-life balance. So before we get into it, I have picked a card out of my Oracle deck, and sometimes I like to use this as a bit of a guide to get started. And this here is the Hunter card. And when I chose it, what I really had in my mind was, what is this? What is the trend going on right now? The kind of trend in the world, maybe, if you will. And the reason I chose this topic is because I've had several clients over the last 3-4 weeks come to me with this. Not so much them coming to me to find work-life balance, but coming to me very obviously overworked and stressed out. Some of those clients have got families, others don't. But it was really striking to me how this was kind of a trend over the last couple of weeks, especially 2-3 weeks, I would say. This has really been coming to me. This energy. So when I picked the card right before the broadcast, I asked, what is this trend? And the Hunter card came out, and the Hunter card is interesting because I'll just read you a little part out of the whole part in the book, and then we can expand from there and really get into the heart of this topic. Rely on your own skills to traverse the thick forest you are in to reach your destination. You need to follow the tracks left by spirit to claim your bounty, which is already prepared and being offered to you. Do not follow the maps drawn by others, as they will not lead you true. Instead, become the map maker. Find your internal compass and use all your senses, including your common sense. Now, if I was to expand on that and really feel into the energy that's been coming, it's that when we are completely stressed out, taxed at the brim, to the brim, overwhelmed, completely overwhelmed, it really becomes hard to listen to one's own inner guide, inner compass. And you could also say that it's extremely hard to hear spirit. It becomes kind of a trap, if you will, when we are just completely overworked. And I feel like what this is really telling us is we're kind of in a time where there's some awakening happening of, wait a minute, what am I in? Why am I here at my job until 8:00 at night? I barely see my family. Just this kind of waking up of going, I don't know if I want this anymore. And yet this feeling of stuckness, as though we are stuck in those roles or stuck in place. So let's talk about that a bit. Let's just first get into our bodies. So I don't know where you are, if you're watching this live or if you are listening on the recording later, perhaps not at work. then maybe you have more space, or even if you are at work, maybe it's not a big deal for you to do this. But really, I just want you to get into your body, really feel your body. So if we are in a headspace, particularly, we can just begin to feel, particularly the bottom half of our body. So if you have access to your feet or access to your upper thighs, if you're sitting in a chair, just go ahead and give yourself a bit of a leg massage or a little bit of a foot massage, just to wake this part of the body up again. Perhaps you've been in your head all day because you've been at work or doing something quite heady. And if that's the case, this can be really helpful to begin to wake up the lower half. And then if you're able, you can just begin to move a bit. You can begin to move your legs. You can begin to move your arms. But just finding a little bit of movement, your neck, where it feels good. So wherever you feel stiff, maybe you've been sitting in a chair all day and you want to stand up and touch your toes. What feels good to your body? And this is just an opportunity for you to begin to recognize and speak to your body, particularly at a time in the day where maybe you're working and have to use a lot of your head or your heart in some workspaces. And we can just give ourselves a squeeze, a massage, anywhere where it feels good. And I like to sigh a lot. You'll hear me sigh a lot. It helps me to relax. So you can try that and just really let go. All right. And, throughout, as you're listening, please do continue to move your body if that's helpful. Continue to give yourself a massage. We don't have to listen and be still all the time, even though that is what we are taught at school, at work. To pay attention seems to mean to be completely still. And I think it does a lot of us a disservice. Stillness is good. I'm not anti-stillness. I'm not saying there's not value in the discipline of stillness. But also moving. There's a lot of value in moving. And really paying attention to our bodies again. And that's really at the heart of this conversation, too. When we are at work, if we have a job where we are getting up and then we are going to work and we are spending the entire day at work and we are just working with hardly any breaks. And I know that's not the case for everybody. Maybe you have a job that is really, really flexible. But for many of us and the clients that seem to be coming to me, there seems to be a trend of just working. And in particular, what I thought was interesting in this trend was that a lot of the clients were working for a nonprofit. Now, what's interesting to me is that the nonprofit world is all about bringing people in that want to do good in the world. So if you work for a nonprofit that helps kids or the elderly or any social issue really in in your country, or city or town, um, it's like you go there really caring perhaps about the cause, really caring about, yes, this is something I feel passionate about. This is something that I really want to make a difference in the world. Most people that I think that work for nonprofits, they go in like that. They say, yeah, I want to make a difference in the world. So the other thing is, as you're listening to this, please, if you have something to drink, uh, let's really practice drinking water together. Really just, again, body. That's even noticing, am I hungry? Am I thirsty? The basics that we tend to forget about during the day, particularly. So back to nonprofits. Yes. So nonprofits tend to really, really focus on, hey, we're doing a good thing. Come and work for us. And then you go perhaps to work there and you put your heart and soul into it. And you're there constantly. And you have clients. And maybe you don't have clients directly under you. Sometimes the clients are, perhaps you're a manager of a department that then is working with direct line support for the people who are really needing the help. Or maybe you are the person that is directly helping. But you're doing the helping and you feel like those people really, really need you. And they probably really, really do need you because they're struggling. But there's only one of you to go around. And what happens is then you get taxed. You get all of this energy being directed at you, and you are going and you are going and you are going, and you are in a constant state of alert and go. Now, you could do that. Perhaps you are doing that. But this constant state of go, 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 eventually is going to break down the body. And I say that because we can't sustain ourselves. Hey, Antoinette. Nice to see you. I'm not sure who that is, but it's nice to see you all. Welcome. So we're in a constant state. So we're just talking about a constant state of go. And when we're in a constant state of go, 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 we are on really, really high alert. And our whole system is just working. And then we come home maybe at the end of the day, maybe it's 8:00, and we are exhausted. And then maybe we don't have the capacity to really feed ourselves, even though our body is hungry. And then we end up at fast food, or we end up in grabbing something to eat. Yes, Melissa. Hi, Melissa. It's yes, it is recorded. It is recorded. So we end up in this just consistent go, go, go space, headspace, and which then impacts our home life. So maybe we have kids, and maybe we don't pay very much attention to our kids because we're so inundated at work. Or perhaps we, cannot make the time to make a meal. We don't have the time. We certainly don't have the time to do any of our practices. Suppose we have a meditation practice. We don't have time. We haven't put that on the agenda. So we're kind of living in a world right now, it feels like, where work is the priority. And perhaps we think we're helping. We think we have to do it, particularly if we're here in a nonprofits kind of setting again, where we're really at a job where there is a really helpful service going on that you are providing. So wonderful that you are providing it. But what happens when you're there and your entire system is taxed? When your entire system is taxed and you have the person that you're supposed to be helping in front of you, that person really isn't getting the best you. they're not getting the benefits of what you could actually be providing. You're not really tuning your body in any kind of relaxed way so that they can relax. So, what do I mean by tuning? Tuning is when we are able to really relax all parts of our body. And when I say that, it's just this how we were doing it at the beginning, where we were just going, so there's a kind of settling that happens in our body. And we can really feel that, just feeling the groundedness of earth underneath us. We just are able to settle there and really sit on our planet, sit in our seat. And then the rest of tuning is, so when we're having stress down here in your stomach region and our solar plexus, and there's all this kind of ick going on, then the other person that is with you is can also feel your ick. So if they already have an ick going on, you're not actually shifting that in them, because you're not really able to shift it in yourself. So if we can learn to ground and begin to shift this part of our bodies down here, ground down, and then do these heart openers, and stay inside of our hearts, that person across from us is really going to feel a sense of open heartedness. They're going to feel your groundedness, and they're going to feel your presence. So you can't be present if you have all of this stuff going on, because that person across from you, they've got all this stuff going on. And what they need you to be and what they need you to do is really ground in yourself. And so you have to have a balanced life to be a model, to them and really everyone. Now, that's a bit challenging in some work environments. In some it could be nonprofit, it could be for profit. If you work at a company that does not really see the value in work-life balance, then that is really going to be hard to do, because the focus of the company then is to push and push and go and go and go. And then you really have to think about whether that is the right place for you, particularly if you're watching this video and this is something really important to you. And that kind of gets into the bigger picture of how we want to live our lives. So, water break. So I'm going to shift into a little story. I used to work at the Mercantile Exchange, in Chicago for a long time, which is the big financial exchange. And my background is in computer science and technology. So for years, I was working in that kind of an environment. And I would go, and it was really great money. And there wasn't per se anything wrong with it. And it did really activate and exercise a part of my mind that I really value. And it was a place that really had it together. So there was a certain joy in working there. And there was always kind of something inside of me that went, this isn't really, who I am and what I really want to be doing with my life. This isn't really me. So we have to think. I'm 44 years old. I don't know what your ages are, watchers, but it's never too late to really think about, what is it that I really want to be doing with my life? What is it how do I actually want to spend my time here? And I say this because we don't have that much time here. And not to make it scary, but we have this much time here. And we have to decide in that time, before it all kind of goes away, what do we want to spend our lives doing? What do we want to do? Do we want to spend it taxed? Do we want to tax our system and just go on living that way? And so it's really our decision, right? It's really, really our decision. And if the answer to that question, if you're in that and you're asking yourself that question and you're like, no, actually, this is not what I want to do, then it kind of opens the door for you to start making steps to ask yourself, is this a work environment for me? And it really varies, right? Because it could be that you have a lot of influence in your work environment. Perhaps you're a manager. Perhaps you have the ears of upper management. Perhaps you are upper management. Perhaps you own your own company. So, it's a wide variety, or it just could be no, this company's never going to change, and I have no pull to change it. I have no way of changing what I'm in. But the point is that you get to decide that. And so, coming back, we picked this card. I picked this card at the beginning of the session, the Hunter card, which I read already, but it really, I love this sentence. Do not follow the maps drawn by others. They will not lead you true. Instead, become the map maker, find your internal compass, and use your senses, including your common sense. So it's really putting it on you, and really allowing you to reclaim your own life again. When you're in that kind of state where you're like, this is not really working for me. So then sometimes that can be very scary, because change for a lot of people is scary. So I'm not saying that tomorrow you have to quit your job. I'm just simply saying perhaps it's time to reevaluate. Can this job that I'm in be fixed in a way that allows me to have some of what I want? And you get to decide what it is that you want. So one thing that I think is really helpful is journaling. And so if you have a piece of paper or you have a journal, begin to write, really, really simple. Begin to write, what is it that I want? With my whole life, right, ahead of me, what inside of my life do I want? Because if you don't really know what you want, if you haven't thought about it and really just contemplated what it is that you want, then you really can't take steps in getting there. So it's really helpful just to have the bigger vision of what you really want, so that then the steps can come into place. And then you can begin to see, what is it inside of my environment right now that is serving me, and what is not serving me. So lastly, I've had multiple clients come to me with this, and I see a trend in the nonprofit world of really good-hearted people, really, really good-hearted people, really, really hard workers, and their hearts are kind of being exploited by the nonprofit. We don't have to hire more people. We can push people. They can be here till 8:00 at night. And I'm just here to say no, right? That's not okay. How much do we really want to dedicate our lives to that? And then it's finding percentages. It's really finding percentages. So let's say you have a family and you're like, I really want to spend more time with my family. Okay, I want to work 50% work, and I want my life to be 50% family. Or another thing is that we often forget to include ourselves and our me time. So it could be that you say, I need to carve out 25% of me time. I don't have any me time right now. Or maybe you have a very, very small amount of me time. But this is really, really critical and important, because without the me time, without really having some time in the day to reflect, to even do what I'm saying, to even write in your journal about what you want, you need to carve out the space to know what you want. So again, I like to do this bathtub ritual in the morning. I get up really, really early. That isn't everybody. People have different ways of living, but I like to get up early and just take a bath. And this is really where my me time happens. And let me tell you how my me time goes. So I step into the bathroom and I fill up the water, and then I take a bit of the water and I go outside and I pour the water out into and make a water offering to the sun. This is just my ritual. So that I ask the sun, and I express my gratefulness basically for the day, of what I am really, really grateful for in my life. And then I come back into the house, and by that time the tub is ready. And Melissa, I'm going to read your comment here in a moment, as soon as I finish saying what I'm saying. But I get into the bathroom and I get into the tub and I close, I light a shrine and I light the candles. And I get into the tub and I sit with my Epsom salts and I close the curtains. And when I close the curtains, that becomes my space and my space only. And when I say my space only, it doesn't just mean that no one is allowed in physically. Like that is one thing, that it's just me in there. But it also means that my head and my thoughts are about me. So I direct my thoughts around me. Now I do the thing that in the first video that we did live last week. If you haven't seen that, you can watch the replay. But the practice that of waking up the body really helps me to begin to interact with my physical body, to just focus on that first. And then as I'm kind of doing the body scan, I'm also checking in sometimes with the inner part of my body. Like I feel heartsick right now, or I feel grief, or I feel anger. And this is where I feel it in my body. And so it's just getting in touch with that again, in touch with this. And then what will sometimes happen is I'll be sitting in the bath and I'll be starting to think about someone else. And when I notice that, I notice like, oh, someone's in my bath. Someone is not literally in my bath, but someone is in my bath because they've captured my head, they've captured my attention somehow. And so when I notice those things, I quickly shift that. And I'll just kind of sometimes even do a motion of like slicing the water with my hands of just, no, this is my time. You energy cannot hijack my mind. I'm just going to be on me. So it's really, really, really my time. So carving out that is really, really essential and can really help then to create more of the work-life balance that you're seeking, because you're going to know what you want. You're going to know what you want to go after. So, Melissa, my nonprofit promotes work-life balance, but as a manager who has been here for a long time, they take advantage of my work ethic. I've been trying to manage that. Yeah, that is a really, really big one. People really taking advantage of that. And that's a real problem in the nonprofit world in general. And I sometimes I think it's just that there is so much work to do. There is so much to do in those environments. And it feels like we have to help people. We have to help people. We have to get this done. But in actuality, it's ironic, but we're helping people at the expense of ourselves. And that's really not okay. Because are we really helping people if we were to focus and shift some of our attention on the balance towards ourselves? Then how does that change how we're helping people? Can we be more present with people, with the people that we claim to be helping? Right. So I think it's not just work-life balance exactly, but the nonprofit also really has to be invested in, oh, we're actually going to take some time up for ourselves, maybe even in the day in the workspace. We're really going to start tuning ourselves to be present, to be open-hearted, to be there, and not to be like this all day. Right? But when we are this all day, what are the tools that we can use in the nonprofit during the day to not be that, but to be doing something else? Right? So some of the best work environments that I have seen have got rooms that are just dedicated where people can go and just de-stress during the day. I've seen ones where there are meditation rooms. I've seen ones where there are yoga spaces, and permission to really go to those spaces, right? Not to be like, no, I've got to work nonstop. In fact, I shouldn't even eat lunch today because I have so much work to do. The fact is, the work is going to keep piling up. It's just going to keep piling up because that's just the culture we have set up for ourselves. And so we can't let this stack on our desk impact, right, us. So it's finding that. It's finding that space in a work environment. And another thing, just to add, in our work environments, we also have got a lot of dynamics going on amongst people. So it really, really helps if the nonprofit or whomever you're working for has got tools that they can impart, right, or bring in training to do things like peace circles or art of hosting types of technologies and tools that are really about conflict management, because a lot of that stuff takes up a lot of our mental stress. So it's not we're just not just working with just stress of like I've got to get all this stuff done, but then on top of that, we're working with the mental stress of other people and their emotions and people clashing and sometimes not being able to get along or disagreement, especially if you're in a managerial role and it's kind of your responsibility to kind of work through those kinds of things. So lots of that going on too. Um, so, but I think the most important one, really the most important one, is to start to ask ourselves, is this the place? Is this what we want to continue to do? And is it workable in this work environment? So, is this work environment what I want? And it's okay if it's not. If you come up with the answer of like, actually no, this is actually not what I want to do anymore, right? Then you begin to start devising and creating a plan. But if you don't even know that, then we will continue on our habits, right? So if you have a habit of going to work every day, which most of us do, or starting our day in a particular way, we're going to keep doing those things until we stop and say, is this the habit that I want to cultivate? What do I want my day to look like? And sometimes I even sit down and write up a schedule. I have written up schedules for myself, not to really to say that I have to follow this schedule to a T every day, but it's just breaking it down. How much time do I want? Do I need my time in the morning? Do I need my time at night before I go to bed? If I'm not getting good sleep because I'm taking work home. And just to put this in perspective, sometimes we don't think we're taking work home because we're not taking the work home, but we're taking work home because our minds are still on work. It's really hard to make that kind of shift. So there sometimes has to be some kind of ritual that you do to make that kind of a shift. So you may come home and there might be something that you do every single day to get out of that headspace so that you're not taking work home, so that it's really compartmentalized. Like, here are my work hours. Here are my morning hours. Here are my middle hours, which are work. And here are my nighttime hours. And this is how I come down. And the balance really should be rousing the energy in the morning, right? Waking up the energy. And hence, waking up, what I do is the bathtub. I'm waking up my energy of my body, setting an intention for the day. What is my intention today? What is my day going to look like? And welcoming the sun. So that's my rousing kind of thing. And then afterwards, in the middle part of the day, is when I really take my clients, which is primarily my work. And if I don't have clients, or I have kind of points in the day where I don't have clients, sometimes I dedicate an hour or two to writing, or I might be on a live stream like this. But the point is that I'm dedicating that middle part of the day to work. And even in between there, I take breaks and really focus on my body. So I'll take a client and then I might go out for a 5-minute walk, or I take a client and I might do a little exercise. But there's a break, there's a coming back to body even inside of the heaviest part of the flow of the day. And then it's important to me to end by 6. So I say 6 because I'm not really good after around 5, 6 o'clock. I'm not the best. 6 o'clock is kind of the cutoff for me. So my workday ends at 6, and I'm really, really strict on my workday ending at 6. So I will turn that into, okay, now what are the activities for the evening? And I'm going to shift out of this. And dinner is the thing that really helps me to kind of shift gears. So we make dinner a lot, my husband and I. And so It's just shifting into dinner mode for me. Is that kind of turnkey kind of thing. Um, and then and so it's still active. That's still active. So I personally I need something active because I've been active. So I need something active, and then but then that is coming down. So now we're coming on the other side of the mountain, right? We're going up during the day, and then we're at our peak, and then we are coming down, kind of following the sun. Now the sun is kind of coming down, right? And some of us are getting tired with the time change, going into effect, and it's getting darker, and I can even feel myself wanting to wind down earlier than 6 o'clock. But still, that's kind of realistic for what I do. So I'm coming down, and I'm kind of developing now a night ritual, um, of okay, so maybe I'm going to read, maybe I'm going to exercise, maybe I'm going to do kind of an exercise that's more on the kind of slower scale, deep breathing type of stuff. Maybe I'm going to go out for a walk. There's just a number of night things that you could be doing. Sometimes people will take baths at night, and that's really soothing for them. But it's just finding that and preparing for sleep. You're not sleeping yet, but you're unwinding. You're unwinding. And then you do that with, if you have kids and you have families, you do that with your whole family. Maybe you find that kind of a balance of an up take and then a down take. And then everybody kind of learns that together. You begin to slow down. You begin to slow down this whole system so that when you're actually ready for bed, right? Maybe you're doing a little reading. Maybe you're doing some yoga nidra is a really wonderful practice that really helps me to sleep. Um, so maybe you're doing some deep breathing, but then you're getting into bed, and then it's so much easier to sleep because you have been slowing down now for the last 3 hours. Um, and then that makes sleep so much easier, so much better, to kind of come down the other side. So that was a lot. I hope that there are some helpful tips in there. I really do work with a lot of people who are going through, who want to have a more work-life balance, I feel like, and who are also ready, to follow their passion again. And I would say this is really about passion, right? That middle part of the day has got to be fulfilling for you. It has got to be happy. We have to feel joy in our lives, right? And I know life is not always joyous, but if we don't feel any joy, it's like, what are we doing every day, right? So I want you to, if there's one takeaway that we could take away from this, it's what makes you feel joyful? What do you want to be doing all of the time, right? What do we want to be doing all of the time? And can we turn that into our work? So a lot of people are in that kind of inquiry right now, I think, of like, what makes me happy? What makes me feel joyous? What is my purpose here? So I hope that's helpful. And please really think about that. Think about what your joy is, where your heart is, and think about how you want to balance and what you want in your life. And I know sometimes it feels really like an uphill battle, like we can't do it, but you can. Because when you're really, really living into your life's purpose, it's amazing how things will just line up for you. It doesn't have to be so hard. It just has to be really, really clear. So clarity is really, really, really key, and get specific. So when you're journaling, if you have a journal and you make some time, perhaps at night, if it feels like an activity that feels calming, if it feels like an activity that feels like it's amping up, then maybe a daytime journal. But really just getting really, really specific. This is what I want. This is how I want my day to be. This is what I want to see happen in my life. And really revisiting that and making it even more specific each day. Because I feel like the more specific we get, the more we begin to magnetize and attract those things to us. So it is possible. It is possible for everybody. That's something I truly believe. It is possible to live your passion and your dreams, even in a climate of total chaos, what feels like total chaos sometimes, and overwhelm. It is possible to have that. It's just making a little time for you to really have space to really think about what you want. So thank you. Thank you all for joining me. And I will be back again next week. I'm going to be doing these lives once a week. I'm probably going to find a more consistent time so that you can always know what time these lives are. But I haven't quite decided on that yet. I want to see what feels right to me. So I'm experimenting a little bit with times. But once I get that set, I will let you know. But thank you. Thank you for being here. And if you're watching on the recording, it's really good to be with you too. Bye.